Hey everybody, thank you so much for joining me for another episode of 10 Minute Tuesday. If you have not already, please like, share, and subscribe. And today I got Mr. Ben Jones in the building, CEO, co-founder of Data Literacy. What's going on, man?
Hey, Sekou. Thanks for having me. How you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm good, man. Thanks for taking time out today. Awesome. So we've done a number of 10 Minute Tuesdays. So Ben, go ahead and introduce yourself for the people.
Yeah, sure. So, as you mentioned, I'm Ben Jones. I'm the CEO of Data Literacy. It's a company that's on a mission to help people speak the language of data and AI. We work with organizations around the world, nonprofits, companies, government agencies alike, and we're doing training programs, we're doing assessments, we're doing some consulting work to help them figure things out and, unlock the value and all this data they've been building and all these expensive investments in tools and technologies. What about the people and their knowledge and their skills? That's where we like to think we come in. So yeah, we've been doing it for about 6 years now, based out of the Seattle area, but I'm a LA kid where I grew up. And so yeah, that's a bit about me.
Awesome, man. Data Literacy is great. That's a great company. You're an LA kid and then live in Seattle and doing a whole bunch of other things. But you had to get your start at a certain point. So what really compelled you to get into data to begin with?
Yeah, so I had like an engineering background. I did mechanical engineering, started my career building like sensors for automotive products under the hood, fitness equipment. I bounced around different things there, but then I landed at an automotive company and we were building sensors, like hundreds of thousands of them. So we had to really look a lot at statistics to try to figure out this production line and how we could minimize scrap and make sure we were building high quality products. So I had to spend a lot of time just working with like raw data, empirical data, experimentation. And that got me into the world of Lean Sigma, which maybe some people who are my age will remember. So applying data analytics and visualization, along with this overarching product methodology to improve processes. And so I started to apply that everywhere, not just in engineering kinds of contexts or problems, but business contexts, marketing contexts. So I started realizing that data was super important. And that led me to Tableau. So that's when I moved from Los Angeles to Seattle, really wanting to be part of this data visualization movement, that was happening back then. And so that's taken me to where I am today, kind of step by step. But it was just a gradual realization that data was the part of this amazing insight moment for people where they realized maybe some things they already knew and those were confirmed. And then they saw things through a new lens and it taught them things they didn't even imagine or expect, which led to pretty amazing improvements, and lots of savings and breakthrough results. So I just kind of became a big believer that data could be such an amazing tool for that. So that was, I think, my journey into the world of data, let's say.
I love that. I love that. So fascinating journey, and I love talking about journeys here. So thinking about that, you found CEO, co-founder, Data Literacy, worked at Tableau, worked for an engineering plant. But I'm sure you had jobs before that you didn't like. So
Yeah.
what's been your least favorite job to date, and why did you dislike it?
Well, I guess I would have to say, in a way, my first job was my least favorite. I mean, I was only 15 years old. I had to get a special approval from my high school to be able to have this job because I was so young. But I was working as a janitor's assistant at a elementary school. So I would ride my bike down to the school. Actually, my younger brother went to that school at the time, and I would be the assistant to the janitor. So I would, after all the kids left, I go sweep all the rooms, mop them up. I usually have my headphones in. I'd be listening to some 90s rock and roll band, like, I don't know, Collective Soul or something. And I was pretty much working just by myself. The janitor, he happened to be Vin Scully's brother, kind of randomly. Vin Scully was the voice of the Los Angeles Dodgers for many years. So his brother was the head janitor, and he was very
Wow.
quiet. And I didn't really maybe get to work with him very much at all. And apart from maybe a random teacher happening to work late, I mostly just worked by myself to clean these rooms. So um, I guess the thing I didn't like about it, it was very solitary work.
Yeah.
And also I was just cleaning up after little kids. But and also the thing I hated about that job, okay, this is I guess part of this, the part of I guess what teachers would have to go through too, because I was paid by the school district. But I had to, on the first day I started working, I didn't get my first paycheck for 2 full months. It was like you worked a month And then you got paid. Your first paycheck didn't come till the end of the next month. So this poor little 15-year-old kid worked for a full 8 weeks before he saw a penny of any of that. Which the good side with that was after I stopped working, I still got a paycheck a whole month later. So that was kind of cool that summer. I was like, woo, another
Yeah.
paycheck came in the mail. So anyway, yeah, but it was a fun job. I learned a lot, gave me a little bit of work ethic and I don't know, had a little bit of pocket money. I think I just probably spent it on baseball cards. So, but anyway, yeah, it was interesting.
Oh man, that's crazy. Janet Ben Jones, the janitor. Never
That's
thought I
me.
would
That's
have seen
got my start.
that. I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
All right, so thinking about the journey, we have a concept here we call failing forward, right? Nothing you do, you ever fail, right? Everything's a learning lesson, and you grow from it. So thinking about your journey, where you're at, where you started to where you're at now, what would you consider your biggest failure, and what did you really learn from that experience?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think like all of us that try to get out there and do things, I don't know, we have a lot of them. A lot of my data failures I wrapped into a book called Avoiding Data Pitfalls. And I said, well, what if I could go back in time and tell old version of me all the mistakes not to make about working with data? And there are a lot of them, of course, not just making a bad chart, but well, so many others. There are listed out in the book there in some different sections and such. So there are many, many ways we can make mistakes with data. I mean, I think it's very many opportunities to make such mistakes. So, like I said, I try to put that into a book. But the one that came to mind when I saw this question you sent me is different. I was involved in a project we were working on at a company where we were making sensors for, I think it was for Ford. And so I was a junior engineer. I had just joined this company. It was probably my first month on the job, second month on the job. And they asked me to run a pilot program. I had to build a bunch of sensors to send to Ford. And there was a detail that was wrong in the print. So basically the entire run had to be scrapped. And, I was maybe 23, 24 years old, something like that, 25 maybe. And this was about a $15,000 scrap, which to me was like an insane amount of money. This would have been back in like the early 2000s. That was a lot of money. It
Yeah.
was so much money that I was pretty sure I was going to get fired. And so I went to my boss and I said, well, we made a mistake in the lab. It's on me because it's in the engineering print. I was the engineer. And so, I have to confess, this is what happened and we have to start over. And I was pretty sure I was going to be shown the door. So he just kind of smiled. He was this really wise, uh, yeah, just super senior engineer. Name is George Chen. Really had a huge impact on my career. And I was waiting for the hammer to drop, and he just kind of smiled in a funny way. And then I said, well, aren't you going to fire me? And he said, no, Ben. He said, I don't want to have to pay $15,000 to teach another engineer what you learned. So that was a real expensive training program. So now you have to stay. So I remember
Yeah.
like going, oh, it was just kind of a funny moment where I saw it from his point of view that in a way that failure in his mind was an investment in me, that I had gone through the process of learning something, what not to do. And he didn't have to start over with somebody new and have them learn that same painful lesson the hard way, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, it was cool. It was like, oh, interesting. If you find the right boss, they see your mistakes as part of your learning journey, not something to be punished per se. So that was a failure that put me a few leaps ahead in terms of my own mindset about what
Yeah.
it meant to try things and get it right or get it wrong. So yeah.
I love that perspective, and I'm going to take that perspective, right? Because a lot of it is investments and time and relationships and different things. And, what is outside of monetary, if something mistakes happen, like what are you gaining out of it that is more than a dollar? I love that perspective.
Yep. Yep. There's some expensive lessons we learn, and
Yeah.
we can't squander those. We've got to hold on to them and make sure they count.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. All right, so target audience for this podcast, I believe, is either people just starting out in a career in data, or people trying to pivot into data, or they just don't know where to begin. So, what is one piece of advice you give someone who's just starting out in a career in data?
Well, it's interesting because my son is going into his fourth year at University of Washington in data and
Oh,
analytics there. He's in it's called the informatics program there. So I talk with him a lot about starting a career in data. And I also teach people at the business school there at UW. So I get a lot of students that are early in their career kind of asking where to get going. I mean, I think there are maybe two things I would say. Well, one thing that comes to mind, I remember reading a book a while back. I can't even really remember what the book is now or what the title of what of the book is. I think it's called Integrity. But anyway, the author of the book talks about in your career, you're like a boat going through the water and you leave behind a wake. And so you need to think about both sides of the wake. One side of the wake is what sorts of things did you get done? Were you the person that got results? But the other side of the wake that people forget about is what did people feel like when they worked with you? What
yeah,
kind of person were you to be working with? Did they enjoy it? Were they feeling like they benefited in some way from being associated with you? Did you care about people? Because I think sometimes we just get one of those sides of the wake. Maybe you get all the results, but you burn bridges and you really burn people. Or you're just a fun person to be around, but you really don't get anything done. So truly successful people, I think, are able to do both of those things at the same time. Now, that advice probably applies to whether you're in data or I guess maybe any career. So maybe a separate thing I would say to someone specifically in the data world is that I think now is the time to look very closely and carefully at the overlap between AI and analytics. And I know
yeah,
we hear about it so much, maybe people are tired of hearing about it. But I do think that we're standing in the precipice of a new era when tools are being developed right now that have the potential to allow us to work with data in totally new ways. And those tools are still not perfect. They're highly imperfect, actually. And so they're still being fleshed out. But I think if you want to really grow your career, it would be a good investment in your time to look into those specific areas. What I mean is ways that LLMs are being used to explore data. What are some sorts of things that work well or not well? How do knowledge graphs and data catalogs overlap with LLMs? What about visualization? How can these tools be used to help you think about and maybe encode or visualize data in interesting ways? So I think that that's probably a useful thing to do right now. I don't happen to believe that AI is this bubble that's going to burst. Yes, it has hype cycles,
yeah,
but I think that fundamentally we're seeing some new tools that are coming out that aren't just going to like go up in smoke. I think they're going to be there. They're probably going to get incorporated into other tools and software, and maybe they won't be so headliney. But they are going to be real, and they
yeah,
are going to change how we do what we do. And so for someone who's really young, that's a golden opportunity because if you can learn that, you can leapfrog people like me who have been around it for 20 years or plus because you're going to find more efficient and effective ways to do some of the things I've learned how to do that are going to take me more time and maybe I won't be able to do them as well as someone who's just starting learning things fresh and will be able to yeah, like I said, just really take a big jump ahead. So I think
yeah.
that's a great, I'm excited for the new generation coming out learning these tools. I think it could be really great if they lean into that. Yeah.
Love that. I love that. And man, thanks for the validation on learning AI. I won't call it hesitancy, but I've used it for like particular purposes, but I haven't done the whole analytics and the AI and immersion too, and using a LLM tool to enhance my Tableau calculations or code or, so on and so forth, right? It's like, oh no, I know it in my brain. I know how to do this. I can do it faster, but I've been a little hesitant on it. So seeing your perspective as, even if no one watches this episode, I got something out of it. So, this is absolutely fantastic and a great gem that I'm going to definitely dive into.
That's
That was
great.
fantastic. So, all right. So, closing out a little bit, tell me about the most influential people in your life and how they made an impact on you.
Yeah, so I talked about George, my one of my first bosses. And I think I know you and I share this. I mean, my dad had a huge influence on me. He, when I was young growing up, started a business, and I really admired him for that. So I always had an entrepreneurial um, bone in my body, really wanting to try that, really wanting to do that. In some ways, like I said, I learned what to do, but also what not to do. I think well, when he started his first business, I didn't see him for very much for a while because he was really immersed in starting it. So, yeah, I knew I didn't really want to do that. I wanted to be more present for my family than my dad had been.
Yeah.
But hey, what I love about my dad is, and he's passed on since maybe since 2015 was the year that he passed away. But yeah, like I said, I mean, he really had a humongous influence on me. Some things I learned to do, some things I learned not to do. And I think that's sort of how it goes with parents. Probably that's how my kids see me and think about me too, which is great. But he had a humongous influence on me. Well, I would also have to list Ellie Fields. She was my boss at Tableau and was a real visionary, a person who understood the value of sharing data and having a data dialogue. Also, a person who embraced interpersonal relationships in the context of career and was a very warm person and understood that sometimes I would go through things in life that made it maybe I made me less productive in those moments. And she always had a lot of grace for that. So she became a mentor and someone I really kind of value and depended on and learned a lot from over the years. So, of course, she's had a huge influence on me. Really grateful for the time I got to work for her while I was at Tableau. Also, Elisa Fink, who was her boss, the CMO at the time. Yeah, real fun leader to work for. Just really, you're just going to enjoy your time working in her department. She's getting amazing things done, but she's just a real person. You could walk on in and, she would say something crazy or funny or hear you out, or again, just like people that cared about the human side of
Yeah.
the work relationship and also just brilliant data minds as well, though, and so the things I learned from them, both personal and professional, were very profound.
Love it, man. Shout out to great bosses. Shout out to Pops, man. Everybody. Great
Yeah.
impact, major impact on them. Love it. All right, Ben, where can listeners find you at online?
Yeah, so you can find me on my website, dataliteracy.com. I spend more time on LinkedIn than probably any other platform right now. And that's just Ben R. Jones is the profile. And yeah, I think I used to spend a whole lot more time on Twitter. You can barely never find me there. I just really kind of don't hang out in that dumpster fire. But hey, yeah, LinkedIn's probably the best place. You can also just email me, bjones@dataliteracy.com. Those are places to shoot me a note if you want to say hello, and we'd love to hear from you.
Awesome, man. Well, this was great, Ben, and I gotta get this on wax, man. Appreciate you all that you do. Relationship, my friend, my bro. I would not have been independent, entrepreneur, all the stuff that went along with it. So it'll be a year next month that I've made the leap. So I am forever grateful for our friendship and everything that you do, man. So thanks for taking time out today. This was fantastic.
Hey, thanks for having me on the show, and early congrats on the 1 year anniversary.
Yeah,
We'll be excited to hear when that happens. We'll be celebrating with you. So yeah,
yeah,
love what you're doing, and big believer that Royal Blue's gonna go big. So yeah, keep doing what you're doing. And again, thanks for having me on the show.
yeah, for sure. Appreciate you. And as I said in the beginning, if you haven't already, please like, share, and subscribe. And we'll talk to y'all next week. Have a great day.